gonna go live now, okay?
Got it.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 23rd Cornwall Central School District Board of Education meeting. I would ask you please all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we do have two public comments, so I will read them into the minutes. As with any public comments, we will not be responding back, but I will be very happy to share this as a matter of public record. This is from Bill Johnston, and his comments for us this evening are, hi, I was just wondering if the public will get information regarding school surplus money since the schools have been closed. For example, no substitute teachers needed, no student transportation needed, fewer school lunches, utilities, heat, water, electricity, gas, garbage, no home tutors, art supplies, copy and Xerox costs reduced, no pay required for testing monitors, regents, SATs, no school staff travel, conference expenses, less fields maintenance, gasoline and vehicle maintenance less, and can we get an itemized list of the surplus? Thank you. Thank you, Bill, for your comments. And the other comment we received was from Joshua Wojciechowski. A few comments, questions for tonight's meeting. I realize there is a lot coming at the district, our educators and the school board all at once, but the reopening of schools is going to be critical in getting New York back to work and needs to be done properly. In preparation for reopening schools, is the district working on a plan that ensures social distancing, spacing of students, staggered schedules, extended school days, week, year, and adequate supplies of PPE for staff and students, monthly cleaning and testing of facilities, and what will that look like for each school building? What will be the associated budget costs of a reopening plan for this school year and the school budget that is yet to be adopted? Is Cornwall working on a plan now or waiting for the governor and state ed to issue guidance first? Thank you, Josh. Okay, so now we're on to our consent agenda. Use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately. Is there anyone who would like to pull an item off the consent agenda at this point? Okay. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda items as submitted by the Superintendent of Schools, items 2 through 4. Do I have a motion?
John will move. Sorry.
Okay, so motion made by John, seconded by Larry. All in favor, Louis?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Brendan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Nina?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Okay, motion carried with the consent agenda. Thank you. And the next item of business is our budget update. And this is from Mr. Sotland. Take it away, Harvey.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. So tonight we're going to have a presentation virtual here. Everybody should have a copy of what I'm going to be speaking toward. It's also on Board Docs if you have that open as well. The first thing I want to talk to is the second page, which really is a summary update of where we stand today, right now. And the good news is, as you can see, the last time we had an update, it was actually a month ago on March 23rd. We at that point in time, we had about a $100,000 budget gap. At this point in time, as we stand today, we have about a $212,000 surplus. I'm going to talk about why and how come in a minute, but we're going to stick a little bit to the format that I've used in the past presentations just for consistency. So the next page really gives you a full snapshot of all the various expenditure items and the expenditure areas and what the changes, be it an increase or decrease from the current year. And as you can see, if you were to compare this to the last go around a month ago, The expenditures are down about $750,000. It's quite a bit. And as you can see at the bottom there, the year-to-year increase is only 1.17%. It's a very minor increase relative to a $75 million budget. As a point of reference, last year's budget, the budget that we're in right now, was actually a year-to-year increase of almost 3%. So let's turn the page and let's kind of dig into some of this. How did we get here? How did we go from a gap to a nice bit of a surplus? Well, 4 weeks have passed and a lot has happened. There were a lot of changes, some good and some bad. It's also important to note that where we stand today, even though we have a surplus of about 212,000, it's just a point in time, point on the map. There's still a lot of items that are outstanding that I'm going to be talking about. This can change and this can swing either way. So let's look at some of the items that have transpired over the last 4 weeks. The very first one there deals with what happened to us and the rest of the state with regards to state aid. The governor's executive budget that was released by him back in January had no indication or no effect from COVID-19. Obviously, it hit after that was released, and as we all know, the state is now dealing with a dramatic economic situation. Consequently, the governor and the legislature passed a budget that was a dramatic cut in state aid. In fact, the difference from his executive budget back in January to the final budget that we actually got is a swing of about $584,000. So we're getting $584,000 less in state aid than we were originally anticipating back in January. Additionally, not looking at it from a revenue side, but something in the law also changed the state's responsibility or its share that it contributes to students, special ed students who are in residential settings. And what they basically did was they took their percentage of revenue sharing, brought it down to 0, and shifted that entire percentage onto the districts. Okay, that impacted us. That bumped up our costs by about $140,000 more. Okay, so those are two very negative, very hurtful situations. So some of the things that offset that, though, in total, where we stand today, we have 9 teacher retirements, we have 1 nurse retirement, and 1 paraprofessional retirement. From a fiscal perspective, that helps us. Obviously, we have breakage. You have a veteran teacher who's making at the high end of the scale. You have a new teacher coming in there typically at the lower end. The other item that we did in terms of taking into account the property tax cap, it was at 2.2%. It has now been moved up to 2.5%. Again, this is not cast in stone yet. This comes down to a final decision by the board. What you're looking at, though, this $212,000 surplus right now reflects a 2.5% cap, and it's still under the cap maximum. So we're within the cap. Lastly, the key item here, which helped us very much on a fiscal perspective, we had 5 special ed students whose placements changed. These are students who were out of district placements, whether it's BOCES or some other facility. 3 of them ended up moving out of district, and 2 of them actually came back in district to one of our own in-district programs. So those are the big items that really netted out to that swing to a surplus of $212,000. Now, in terms of the open items, as I mentioned, this is just a point in time. If you turn the page, you'll see we still have a fair amount of things that could help us or hurt us still. We still have not reached a final point with regards to staff retirements. Up until the budget is approved by the board, we can pretty much accept any retirement. The only bargaining unit that had a deadline were the teachers. And that deadline was March 30th. We have extended that in past meeting to push that out to May 15th, so that if a teacher does decide to retire, they will still get paid out their unused sick time. That's the purpose of that date. That's they go past that date and they can't get paid out for the sick time. So we haven't gotten any new retirements as a result of extending it, but certainly there's still time. We also have the ongoing special ed reviews. As I've mentioned in the past, this is ongoing and will continue straight through past when the board will most likely adopt the budget. Something new that you've probably heard about, we talked about it a little bit. The governor, as part of his budget, has put into place the ability to adjust state aid. And he's given us an April 1st modification, I'm sorry, April 30th modification. And then there's a couple different ones during the course of the school year next year that he can change our state aid as well. And what he's basically doing is he's using a couple different metrics. One is to look at the revenue that came into the state versus what they budgeted, as well as are they spending more than they budgeted. So it's both the revenue and expenditure front that he can look at and see if that is going to impact us getting another modification or adjustment. The last thing is the final property tax percentage. As I mentioned, right now we're at 2.5%. The final decision will come down to the board as we look at the entire budget as a whole. So on the next page, it's really, you know, what's the path forward? What are we looking at here? With regards to state aid that I just mentioned, we are going to take a conservative perspective and assume that there's going to be an adjustment on the state level. We have to. And we're gonna work up what that number is. We're going to reduce our state aid by that amount. Now we have to balance the budget. We can't take the state aid out and have a gap still. So we're going to fill that gap with fund balance, okay? And as we move into the year, if in fact that does not happen, there is no adjustments in state aid, great. We will get that state aid and we won't need to pull from the fund balance, okay? So that's our strategy with regards to any modifications that they make. To Nancy's point and question that a community member had about the surplus or the savings that we'll be incurring over the course of this year, indeed, there will be some savings. Some of the items that I mentioned there, you have school security, you have overtime, you have substitutes, etc. There will be a savings. We're looking at, on a preliminary basis, I'm looking at probably somewhere between $300,000 to $400,000. Now, what we have to keep in mind is that is gonna, if we do nothing with that money, it basically rolls into our fund balance, which is where it's going to go. The key is that, as I mentioned up above in the state aid, we have to take into account the fact that the state is going to cut our state aid. So we're going to have to, as I mentioned, we're going to have to appropriate or assign more fund balance. Well, where do we get that fund balance from? We're getting it from the surplus, the extra surplus from this year. So it's not like we're not using the money. We're using it to fill the gap and to balance the budget from the state aid that's being cut or anticipated to be cut, okay? It's also important to note that a lot of our big contracts are not tied in to whether or not we are open or closed. A good example is transportation. Our contract is based on 180 days. We pay our contract based on 180 days. Whether we're in session 180 days or not, it's a 180-day contract. So there's no savings with regards to transportation other than the various routes that we have that are variable, such as athletics, such as field trips, okay? But the regular home to school, both for the gen ed students, the special ed, private schools, and even BOCES, we still pay that, okay? Now, what I can tell you is that I have had conversations with West Point Tours, and they have agreed to make certain adjustments to us. Even though the contract holds true, there are certain expenses that they will not incur, and they are going to give us a credit back for that. For instance, fuel, okay? Even though we're paying them the full boat, they're not incurring fuel costs, okay? So we're going to get money back on that. There are some people that, part-timers, that they are no longer paying, so they are going to give us the equivalent of that back as well. So we've been able to negotiate and get something out of that. Next item that comes up is the budget vote. This is still an open item. Everybody is waiting to hear from the governor as to what the date is, what the terms are, what are the conditions. There is so much writing on this, and there's just no guidance at all from the state. We're hoping to get it. Obviously, the vote has to occur, within no later than June 30th, so that we can start the year with a budget. Obviously, just as soon as I hear or anyone hears, we'll get the word out. The last page, I just wanted to update everybody with regards to what the impact is of going from the 2.2% tax cap to the 2.5. And what you're looking at here is the impact of the 2.5. If you were to compare it to the 2.2, which I don't have right on the same page, you're looking at a difference of about $10 to $11 a year. Okay. So it's not a dramatic change. And the reason for that is going from the 2.2 to the 2.5 actually generates for us about $148,000 more. It's a lot of money for the budget, but if you think about it spread out over the entire tax base, it's not that material. Okay. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I,
Go ahead, John.
John, go ahead.
I'm green? Okay, great. Harvey, thank you for this. Very helpful, very challenging time, and I think you're doing a great job of making sense out of a very difficult circumstance, right? You don't know what the state's going to do, and I'm glad that you've been thinking long and hard about it, and you've kind of come up with a strategy to address some of those uncertainties. So thank you for that. You mentioned real quick $10 difference between 2.2 and 2.5%. Was that at what fair market value were you quoting when you said about $10 different?
That was the first one, the $250,000 fair market value.
At 250. Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right. My next question, Nancy, I hope this is okay. I don't want to go back and forth. If I have the floor, let me get through my questions and then we can.
No, that's fine. Go right ahead, John. That's fine.
Thank you so much. So your budget change about 1.17%. If we didn't have the state shortfall or anticipated shortfall, what do you think the tax levy would be as opposed to right now using it as a plug of 2.5? What would that,
Okay.
because I think the real message here is that we're not becoming, we're not cutting our programs. We're not necessarily adding to our programs. We're holding what we got. And the effect on the tax levy, whatever that will be, is largely a function of the cuts in state aid. So if it didn't anticipate a cut, what do you think that would be? I don't mean to put you on the spot. You can maybe follow up later. But if you have that, it'd be really helpful.
So what we're looking at here, if you look at just the change in state aid and what the budget yielded to us, those two items that I talked about before, that's about $720,000 that just disappeared on us. I had always hoped to have the tax cap under 2% this year. Obviously, that's no longer possible. But at $720,000, you have to keep in mind that the tax levy is about $50 million. Okay, so 1% is about 500,000. So certainly, at $720,000, we're talking about going from 2.5% to probably something, below 1.5%. That's certainly something I can work up for the exact figures, but for every 500,000, it's about 1%.
No, that's very helpful, and it's I think something that hopefully we can communicate to all the taxpayers that this budget is being put together in a very critical, challenging moment in history.
Right.
That we're trying to be very good stewards of the money. And while we do have this fund balance, it is raining outside, so nothing like using a fund balance when it's raining.
Exactly. That's what it's there for.
So I really appreciate you spending the time and thought that you have behind this. And I know we're not doing anything tonight, and we still have a lot of questions to get through to eventually approve a budget for the school year 21. But thank you, Harvey. And with that, I'm out.
Brendan, did you have a question?
I did, just to Harvey, just to again echo everything that John said, just all the superlatives. I agree. It's great to have you in this position right now, where you're being so resourceful. Just to clarify some of the numbers there, partly for me, partly for a friend, the public. But so there's the 2.5% increase in the tax levy, but the budget itself is increasing by 1.17%. I think some people may see those two numbers and not understand the difference. If you can just explain the difference between those two and why one is larger than the other.
Sure. So think about it this way. The budget is the entire pie on the expenditure side. Okay. So the entire budget, let's just round off, it's $75 million. That's going up 1.17%. In terms of how we actually pay for that, we have the revenue side. The tax levy itself is only about $50 million. It's only a percentage of what we use to fund the budget. Okay. We have also all the other pieces that fund it are state aid, which, let me come back to that in a minute, and our miscellaneous income. Our miscellaneous income is down as well. Okay. Let me go back to state aid. I talked about the difference between the governor's executive budget and what we ended up with, okay? Let's look at it from a different lens. If you compare what we're gonna get next year versus what we have this year, it's less money. We're actually negative, okay? Forget about a small increase. We're actually negative from where we are today. So that's why the levy, we're pushing the levy as high as we can by at the same time staying under the maximum cap. So that's why there's a slight difference in percentages. Not slight, but that's why there is a difference.
Right. So it's not that the district's expenses are growing 2.5%. The district's
Not at
expenses
all.
are growing 1.17, which is lower than we even anticipated it to go.
Right.
It's just because the state funding is now so drastically cut.
Right.
Where the money is coming from the tax levy.
Right. If you think of it like a pie, the piece of the pie that's for the levy has to be greater because the other pieces are shrinking.
I have a question along those same lines. Sorry, Nina, you want to go?
That's okay. No, go ahead.
Is there a way, and this is now thinking creatively, all that good stuff, is there a way, and I guess it wouldn't be an easy decision or an easy idea, but is there some way to maybe say, okay, listen, we're not going to have certain after school programs next year to make up maybe not having to tell everybody, listen, I know it's not a lot, but a lot of people are under financial stress. They've lost their jobs, that kind of thing. Is there a way to say, listen, you can't have the best of both worlds. We can maybe not increase the tax levy, and say that, what is it, about $1 million, but then say, listen, that means that certain things are going to have to be cut. Is there a way to do that without cutting programming per se, but maybe after school, clubs and that kind of thing?
You certainly can. You certainly can, but again, it would impact the kids.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can put together what some of the costs of those programs are, so that you can see and you can judge and make an evaluation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the questions that what I know as far as our community is, people are under some
Yeah.
pretty financial constraints now because a lot of
know.
people have lost their jobs and what have you, the businesses, all that stuff. So if there's some way to say, listen, it's going to hurt, and it's not actual academia, it maybe is something that's more on the outside, that's an added perk that the school district gives the kids, but maybe, say, listen, everybody's got to tighten our belts. We don't want to charge everybody more, but we have to have that balance. So it's got to come from somewhere. I don't know if
Right.
maybe other school districts are doing, somebody's come up with some awesome idea that we could steal or, or what, but.
Well, what I can tell you, just to shed some light on what the other districts, the majority of the districts out there are in a hole, and many of them in a big hole.
Okay.
And a lot of them are talking about they're talking about cuts in
Mhm.
terms of staff.
Mhm.
Our goal is always to preserve the program we have, and it's always nice to add to that.
Right.
Forget about the add to that. We want to keep, the special sauce, the special programs and everything that make us successful.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
hear you though.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll win the lottery. That'll fix it.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay, Nina?
Thank you. Thank you, Harvey. I know it's been extremely challenging this year and, a lot of the assumptions in the budget are moving around. So thank you for redoing this and coming back at it. Can you just speak a little bit? I know I've talked to various people and, we're trying to control the revenue side, the expense side of the budget to the extent that we can. But can you talk about, I guess, the first 3 lines on the 3rd page of your presentation, or the salaries and the pensions and the health insurance? Can you talk a bit about how those come into being, or, what's behind those, just so that there's, a better understanding of how that happens, or what we can do or potentially do around those numbers?
Sure.
And I
Okay,
think that
so-
may go to your earlier comment with Margaret on staff, et cetera.
Okay. So the first line there, and it's the biggest line, is salaries. That is, we're a business of people, and the amount of increase there of the 729 reflects the following. We have, with every bargaining unit, a contract, whether it's the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the clerical, et cetera. Each one of those contracts are negotiated and approved by the board. And within those contracts, there are stipulated contractual increases that we have to honor. Okay, so that's one variable with respect to that. We have also, as I mentioned, retirements. People move out at the high end, they come in at the lower end. Okay, that's reflective in there as well. Okay, so that's 729. Those are the 2 big variables that play into that increase. With regards to pensions, you have 3 types of expenditures in that line. You have teachers' retirement system, which is TRS. You have the employee retirement system, and the Social Security. The difference between TRS and ERS are really the certified staff versus the non-certified staff. This is really fairly simple. There are percentages that are given to us from the various agencies. So the teachers' retirement system tells us exactly what the percentage is for next year, and that gets applied directly against the line above. Okay, and same thing with the employee retirement system and Social Security, as we know. So that is a direct result of the line above to the percentage that we are giving. With regards to health insurance is an extremely convoluted type of a expense. The reason for that is because you have active employees and you have retired employees. Okay, you have, within each of those, you have different categories. You can have family, you can have single. Within the retirees, you can have 1 spouse on Medicare or 2 spouses on Medicare. So it depends on what various type of coverage they are electing to receive. Now, the actual plan itself, the Orange Ulster Health Plan, as well as we're also part of NYSHIP, which is a New York State insurance program. We get the rates from those 2 respective plans. Okay, each one of those plans, the rates themselves are very low in terms of an increase this year. It's really more of the options or the various plans that people elect that drives this up or down. Something I mentioned earlier in the year that also impacts this, you have to remember that every time somebody retires, and we had a good amount of retirements this year. Whenever somebody retires, you go from somebody who's active and they move into the retiree column. So they're getting health insurance as well as a retiree. But now we have to backfill that position. So that person coming in takes health insurance. So at the point being, every time somebody retires, you go from 1 coverage to 2. Okay, so that's driving that as well. Did that help answer
Okay.
those top 3?
Yeah, thank you. I just knew I had a lot of questions, or not a lot, but a few questions from people I'd met. And, obviously people focus on the top line. So I think
Sure.
it's good to have that on the record, just explaining exactly how it rolls up.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Thanks for putting this all together, Harvey. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes right now.
Yeah, thank you, Harvey.
Yes,
Okay,
thank
we're
you,
gonna,
Harvey.
Thank you.
Nancy, I have a question not for Harvey, in as much as maybe for you, for the board, is what's their next step? What are we doing next as it pertains to getting to adopt a budget for vote?
so I'll speak on that, and then Harvey, you can also jump in there. But right now, a week from today, there's going to be a budget update, from what I understand from the governor, as far as school funding goes. And then Harvey, you're up. Go ahead.
Sure. Everything is predicated on when the governor says we're going to be having the vote. There's
Yeah.
certain statutory timelines, both before the vote and after the vote, that we have to do certain things. So in terms of, your question's a good one, John. Basically, how much time do we have essentially between now and when we have to approve it? And how often are we going to meet, and how often are we going to know what the changes are? As soon as, obviously, as Nancy said, on a weekly basis, I'll be providing an update. And if there's anything dramatic or that you need to know sooner, certainly I'll get an email out to everybody. But like I said, there has been absolutely not a single word mentioned about these votes from the governor.
Which is a concern.
It is,
Mhm.
very much.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Harvey.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to E, new business, non-consent items. The first one is the BOCES Transportation COSER renewal. I would like to take that as per document. Can I have a motion?
John will move.
So John moved, second by Larry. Any discussion?
Just one question, and this is more for just clarification purposes. This is just the transportation to and from BOCES services, or is this service like more broadly throughout the district?
It's more broadly. So let me explain to you how it works. So let's suppose we have a child, and this is all for out of district. This is not in district. This is out of district special needs students. So if we have a student, a special needs student, that's going down to a placement in Rockland County, and if our bus is going through Washingtonville, and Washingtonville also has a student going to that same school, this COSER would actually be perfect for that kind of scenario. They would take both of the students and they would split the cost between us and Washingtonville. So as opposed to us taking our student with West Point Tours, solely on our own student, we would pay the full amount.
Okay, thanks, Harvey.
Okay, any other questions?
I was just going to say this doesn't impact our West Point Tours contract at all. This is a separate thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, Louis,
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Brendan,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Margaret,
Aye.
Nina?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, grant in aid resolution 1920. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education does hereby accept a grant in aid in the amount of $40,000 from New York State as an additional apportionment in support of the general expenditures of the school district. This grant in aid will be reflected in the budget line A2630.220.08 to be used for instructional hardware. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I ask a, oh, sorry.
I need a second.
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 Okay. Motion and second. Discussion. Margaret.
No, it was Nina.
That's
Oh, I'm
actually
sorry,
me,
Nina.
Nina. Sorry. When we say instructional hardware, is there, is it contemplated already what this is going to be used for?
What it's going to be used for is either Chromebooks or access points in classrooms, specifically for the kids' instruction.
Okay. Well, what's an access point?
I'm sorry, wireless access point. They're the things that go on the ceiling so that they can have wireless access.
Ah, okay. All right. Thank you.
Is this something that we might get the best prices because we could use that with one of our BOCES co-op? Is that something because the other districts are getting similar
Yes,
funding from the state?
we would use the same purchasing procedures as we always do, whether it's for this money or anything else. So we stretch it as far as we can go.
Right. So this could fall under one of those the BOCES co-op
It could.
expenses.
It
Okay,
could.
cool.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. Roll call. Lewis.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
Brendan.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Margaret.
Aye.
Nina.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carried. Okay, item number 3, CCTA contract resolution. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the memorandum of agreement between the Cornwall Central School District and the Cornwall Teachers Association dated March 11th, 2020, establishing a new collective bargaining agreement for the period July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2021 is hereby approved. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Lewis, second by Margaret. Discussion? Roll call?
Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so getting back to budget items, right? It's always tough to get into contracts during an anticipated period of a downturn in the economy. And I think everyone recognizes that. Everyone is skittish about getting into long-term contracts. And what we have here, I think, is a neat kind of a 2-year deal to kind of hold what we got with a little modification so that we can eventually get a long-term contract in place. Harvey, can you talk about how this was factored into your budget numbers real quick, please?
Sure, it's factored in exactly as the contract extension speaks. It's a 2-year extension. It calls for step plus 1.75%. Those numbers are reflective in the budget.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other?
I just have one point to make. Sorry, I'm battling my cat who wants to desperately. I'm that guy right now. She's been circling me for 5 minutes like a shark. So yeah. So one of the things to kind of piggyback on what John just said, one of the things that concerns me about this is actually from the teacher standpoint, in that I know this is not how union contracts work, right? But because of the uncertainty that Harvey brought up, particularly with how our funding next year is going to be almost on, as far as I understand it, on a quarterly basis, right? Like it just depends on what the revenue is statewide, and our funding can be revisited at any point, at 4 points throughout the year.
Right.
So what happens when, if the funding comes in, significantly lower to the point where we have to do something about it, and it's gonna be more than just a little bit around the edges. This puts having reviewed the MOA, the agreement, there's nothing in there to reconsider the terms of the contract if that were to happen. You know, and so basically, you know, if you're not under a union contract, something like that happens, you say, hey, company says, look, our revenue just dried up. Everyone's going to have to take a pay cut, right? We don't really have those mechanisms there. It's either keep everybody or start firing people to make up for that shortfall. And that inflexibility, again, from the teacher standpoint, would concern me, because this is a real possibility. You know, so, you know, you move forward lockstep as a group, knowing that that uncertainty may cost people a position, perhaps, which is, again, what we all want to avoid, because that affects the programming, that affects them directly. And so paradoxically, you know, this agreement, it doesn't, I mean, it's concerning for all the reasons that John said, because you're making commitments in a time that is completely, everything is so up in the air. But it would primarily concern me from the teacher standpoint, that they would just, again, they would be left vulnerable to the fluctuations in funding next year without any sort of, you know, line in their agreement to add flexibility. And I don't know if Harvey can speak to that, or Megan or Neil, if the possibility of that kind of language being added in, again, to mitigate against possible drastic changes next year.
Well, to do so, we would have to go back to the bargaining table. You know, if you want to look at it from a procedural perspective, you have in front of you an MOA. If it is something that the board is having issues with, they would not approve it. And then we would go back to the table with them and speak toward the concerns and what you as a board as a whole is looking for. Doesn't mean we're going to come to terms. It doesn't mean, you know, we're going to solve this in the next month. We could be out, you know, a year, another year and a half easily. So that would be the steps, and that would be what we'd have to do if, in fact, the board did not want to move forward with the MOA.
Margaret? If I remember correctly, in the original contract, which this MOA is a piece of, there is the opportunity on mutually agreed upon to open the contract to have those kinds of discussions. You may not see it in the MOA, but we certainly could, if they agree and we agree, we can sit down and have that kind of a conversation and come up with another MOA to address that.
Hmm.
In fact, years back, when we had, you know, very tough times in the state, we did approach the teachers unit, and they made some concessions. And this was mid-contract. It wasn't once one ended. So, you know, it's certainly something we could talk to them about.
Yeah. So that it may not be explicit in the MOA, but the ability to do it is actually in their base contract.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay. And is that something that's something we've done before, or?
Well, Harvey
You know,
just mentioned we've done that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that, but I'm just, is it, well, it's all a hypothetical, you know, saying the feasibility of it, but I guess the only thing we can really judge right now is the possibility of it, and that's, yeah, it's possible.
Hey, Brendan?
Yeah.
So, John here. So the way I kind of see this is, you know, we're just providing that extension. And my sense is that, you know, over the next 12 months, there'll be continuing dialogue, because as I understand it, this extension fills the gap where there was no
Right.
real contract in place.
Mhm.
And this just really only covers us till 2021.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so those discussions are going to be ongoing.
Yeah. And I just want to restate as well, in case I, you know, didn't come across clearly enough originally. You know, the last thing I want is for January of next year, something happens at the state level and we have to cut programs.
Right.
You know, and so like it seems like we're probably every week now, Harvey, you're at a moment where you think I've got to make a decision now that, you know, will put us in a good position next year, 6 months out, et cetera. But this seems to be one for us. And that's really the only box I wanted to check here, just making sure we don't look back and say, we thought we were doing a good thing, and now we actually left ourselves with less options. Because that's not going to be good for the district. That's not going to be good for the teachers. That's not going to be good for the students. You know. But anyway, thank you for clarifying that, and Larry in particular.
Okay, thank you. Any other points of discussion? Okay, roll call. Louis?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Brendan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Nina?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so we're up to number 4 under new business, Cornwall Central School District Superintendent Resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby appoints and employs Terry J. Dade as Superintendent of Schools for the period July 24th, 2020 to July 23rd, 2023, and further approves the employment agreement dated April 23rd, 2020, setting forth the terms and conditions of such appointment and employment, authorizes payment thereunder, and authorizes the President of the Board to execute said agreement on behalf of the school district. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Louis, second by Jim. Any discussion? I do want to mention that in the event that Mr. Dade can start prior to July 24th, as soon as July 1st, then we will have a resolution to change that part of the contract. Okay, any discussion? Any other discussion?
I think it's worth just saying how enthusiastically we kind of make this announcement. You know, it's certainly it's an order of business, but it's something that we do so with I think great satisfaction and anticipation. So
Absolutely.
at least I do. I don't really pretend to speak for anybody else other than me.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay, roll call. Louis?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Brendan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Margaret?
An enthusiastic aye.
Nina?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carried. So congratulations to Mr. Dade.
Yay.
The community will have an opportunity to actually see and hear him. He is going to prepare a short video to share, hopefully by tomorrow. We are going to get a formal statement out to the community. Also want to let you know that one of the things, because of everything that's going on, obviously the entire search had to change, and how things were done had to change. But the support from this community and the response to the surveys and emails that we received were wonderful and certainly helped us guide us on our path. And this board unanimously is thrilled with our selection, and we certainly feel in our hearts that the community will be feeling the same. So thank you all for that.
Nancy,
Yes.
Nancy, I'd just like to say this was a process that none of us took lightly. We had multiple meetings, whether in person or then after that video conferencing. But we did I feel, a very thorough search. We had a good gentleman guiding us, and this is something that I believe this is truly going to be good for the district.
Thank you. Okay, so at that, I would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Margaret?
Second?
Second. Jim.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn. Roll call. Louis?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Brendan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
John, you said aye?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Margaret?
Aye.
Nina?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Thank you. Motion carried. I thank you all for joining us tonight. I thank this board for being an amazing board to work with, certainly throughout these trying times. So thank you, and we will be back in touch soon.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks,
Great,
everybody.
thank
Have a
you
great
all.
night.
Everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.